Hey everybody, I hope everybody's doing well. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm starting to get some requests for videos from people that have subscribed to the YouTube channel, Suffer to Tougher. And I got a request from an individual that wanted me to talk about acceptance and then some resources that might be available to the family as well as the individual that's battling with the mental health disorder along with possible alcohol or substance use disorder. So I'm going to break this down into two videos because it's a lot to cover and I try to keep these videos under 10 minutes. But I appreciate the input and I actually want to encourage the input. So if you do have a topic, please put it in the comments section of the video and we'll try to hit that in future videos as well. So acceptance. I'm going to get a little personal here. This is sometimes a little difficult for me to talk about, but I think it's important. I'm going to share my story of acceptance, which is very similar to individuals' stories of acceptance that I hear visiting the hospitals and patients going through detox and stuff like that. So not going to bore you with all the details, but basically what was going on in my life was I was dealing with alcohol disorder or alcoholism. I was dealing with substance use disorder. Again, I had an addiction to prescription pain pills that were being prescribed by a doctor to me for a specific neck and back issue. And I started to abuse them because I had some underlying issues going on that I really had no idea what was going on. I didn't know that I had a situational depression. I didn't know that I had anxiety. I did not know that I had PTSD or any of that stuff. That was all diagnosed after the fact. I pretty much was broken. My wife had left me. She had filed for divorce for a variety of reasons. Certainly the alcohol and substance use didn't help the matters. My kids had left me along with the wife. And ultimately I separated ways from my employer as well. So at that particular point, I didn't know what to do. I mean, I was just broken. I was just done. To be perfectly honest with you, I pretty much had a death wish at that point. I started to live life pretty recklessly, drinking more. My drug intake became more. Didn't really care about being here. Ultimately led me to a point, a specific day, where I went on a bender of all benders. I think it was at the bar like at 10:45 that morning, 11 o'clock that morning. Pretty much drank all day, popped pills all day, did other things all day. Made it home, and I was found unconscious by my sister, who called 911. I basically had overdosed. The ambulance had to Narcan me. The first responders had to Narcan me, and I was transported to a hospital. In the hospital, I woke up in intensive care. Was told that I needed to heal. There were some issues with my kidneys and my liver at that particular point in time, so they wanted to monitor the levels. And then I had to go through detox. And then once I went through the detox, then I was going to get transported into the psych unit and then ultimately treatment for substance use and alcohol disorder. When I found out that I was going to be shipped to the psychiatric unit, pretty much against my will because of the condition that I was found, I was a terrible patient. I did everything in my power to try to get out of there. I was making multiple phone calls to relatives, making multiple phone calls to doctors, insistent that the doctors come to my room. Ultimately, security was called to my room many times, but basically I was told, hey, no matter what you say, no matter what you do, you're going because you need the help. So I basically at that point gave up trying. And my thought process then was basically just to go through the motions, get the hell out of there, and minimize the amount of time that I was going to be in the hospital as best as I possibly could. But while I was waiting to go to the psychiatric unit, there were a couple things that happened that I think it's important to understand because it was really critical to my recovery. And I don't even know if people realize how critical it was. But there were some phone calls that were made to some people that were near and dear to my heart that I cared about at that particular time. And for the first time, I was honest and truthful with them as far as what was going on in my life and what I was doing. But also for the first time in my life, I had heard that it's okay. You're sick. Just focus on getting better. we'll be here, we'll be with you at every step of the way. And that was so important for me to hear at that particular time. I can't stress that enough. Family members making those comments to me, because up until that point, everything that was important was gone. The wife, the kids, the job, everything. So it kind of gave me a little beacon of a hope. They accepted me. It was the first time I ever heard somebody say that they accepted me, the fact that I was sick. And in a roundabout way, that allowed me to accept me for who I am, and try to focus on getting better. Still was apprehensive. I went down to the psychiatric unit. I started to work a program. I worked on accepting my disease. It was actually in that program that I found out that the disease of alcoholism was actually classified in the same disease as cancer, MS, and diabetes back in 1957. I learned that the disease of substance use was classified in the same category of disease as diabetes, cancer, MS, and other diseases back in 1987. And basically what I had was a disease, a brain disease, due to the chemical imbalance in my head as a result of kind of what was going on in my life. Drugs, alcohol, depression, etc., and so forth. For whatever reason, that resonated with me, okay? Because the way that they actually framed it is that, I have to make permanent life changes to my daily habits. And to be honest with you, I didn't want to. To me, that was daunting. That was scary. It just was a whole other way of living. But when I looked at it from that perspective, okay, it made sense to me. And I used the example of a diabetic. A diabetic has to make lifelong changes to their daily diet. And anyone who has a disease needs to make lifelong changes to keep their disease in check. I'm no different. Okay, I'm no different. I need to make lifelong changes to daily habits in order for me to basically keep my brain chemistry in the right place. So therefore, I'm not using alcohol, not using drugs. Again, for whatever reason, that resonated with me. That allowed me to accept the fact that I was sick. That allowed me to accept the fact that I was no different than somebody who had diabetes or cancer or MS or whoever. And I got to do things. Okay, just like they have to do things. I will also argue, that family members are affected in a positive way with some of those daily changes. And that the disease of addiction really is a family disease, okay? And mental health disorder is a family disease, no different than if you got a relative that's battling, like I said, diabetes, because those dietary changes that are made to the diabetic because they start eating healthier leads to changes on the menu in the household. And those changes on the menu in the household have a positive impact on the other individuals in the household as well. It allows them to basically live a healthier lifestyle as they're supporting the relative that is actually trying to keep their disease in check. So would family members be affected to keep the disease in check? Most definitely. This disease in check, mental health disorder along with alcohol and substance use. They'll eat healthier because that's such an important component of recovery. They'll possibly pick up on exercise, which is a proper component of recovery. They'll be introduced to recreational activities that the patient must do on a daily basis to basically help them with the chemistry in the brain. And most likely, they're going to be in a healthier environment. They're probably going to find that they're not going out to the bars as often, or they're not keeping as much alcohol in the household or any alcohol in the household, because they're trying to encourage a healthy environment for their relative that is struggling. I think that's important to understand, so the family is affected along with the individual. So, what did I do? I started working a program, learning what to eat, not to eat. As I said before, I basically started to exercise regularly. I did start doing recreational activities that were more geared towards regulating my serotonin levels and dopamine levels in the brain, and started to implement that. And I just started living a healthier lifestyle. lifestyle. And as a result, it helped me both physically and mentally. Once I started feeling good about myself on the inside, and I started seeing some physical changes to my body, that really created the momentum that I needed in order to kind of take it to the next level. There's also another critical component that actually happened while I was in the hospital that I think it's important to touch on. And that's while I was in there working the program, for the first time I was introduced to an organization called NAMI, National Alliance of Mental Illness. And I'm going to touch on this in a later video, the next video, truthfully. But I actually heard this gentleman speak. And ironically, the gentleman that spoke was speaking, trying to provide inspiration to individuals that were in there. And it just so turned out that he was a heroin addict, or a recovered heroin addict. I'm an opiate addict, prescription pain pills. He's a heroin addict. An opiate's an opiate. I mean, honestly, a prescription pain pill is a synthetic heroin. That's all that it is. It's basically heroin in a bottle. And to hear his story of recovery really provided hope and inspiration to me, that really helped me catapult to the next level. And that is one of the reasons why I do what I do in regards to going to the hospitals, going to the detox units, working with individuals, is because if I didn't have that hope and inspiration, and I didn't have the acceptance of certain family members and certain people that were near and dear to my heart, that were encouraging me along the way, I honestly don't know if I would be here today. That gave me the push that I needed to get the treatment that I needed, to learn the things that I needed to learn in order to live a life of recovery. So we're going to talk about the National Alliance of Mental Illness. We're going to talk about some other resources that are available to you in the next video. But I wanted to get this out here today. And again, if you have a subject that you want to address, please put it in the comments. If you like this video, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel, Suffer the Tougher. And with that being said, I hope everybody has a great day and a blessed day. Take care.